for me, it feels like this kind of big billboard era, or the big campaign, sort of Super Bowl ad. In my mind, that is gone.
Welcome to Trend Talks, a podcast by Stendahls, part of IO. And today we are welcoming Gustav Gunér from Zeekr.
Thank you so much.
Great to have you here.
Thank you for having me, first and foremost. It's a true pleasure. I heard this is the 4th podcast that you guys are doing, so I'm honored. Thank you.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about the Project 00.
Project 00?
Yeah, I saw this this morning already. What is this all about?
Basically, what you're referring to is a student project we did with our interns. So we had 5 interns this is almost like a year ago, and they were spending roughly 6 months in our studio. And during that time, we came up with this brilliant idea of why do we keep all the different interns in the different sort of fields like interior design, CMF design, exterior design into their own silos. Why don't we create sort of a little company within the company, which then was the IO was happening, or this kind of student project. And it became so successful internally. Everybody was really sort of wowed, and from an emotional point of view, like really sort of touched by the work that they did. So we decided to sort of create this exhibition at the Milano Fair, or the Milano Design Week Fair this year. So they were actually the main attraction for Zeekr Design's first attempt at Milano Design Week.
Can we see that car in Gothenburg someday?
What we have is a scale model.
Yeah.
And that one is on its way back to Gothenburg from Milan right now. Cool. So you can see it, but it's only this size.
Right.
Yeah, maybe that size.
Okay, that's cool. So Gustav, who are you?
Good question. I am I'm head of brand design at Zeekr Design. So I work primarily within the global brand, or the global design team within Zeekr. And we are located here in Gothenburg on Lindholmen. We are a team of roughly, 120 designers. And then we have an operational team of roughly 250 people. And are creating really cool and fun stuff. So we are like, I used to see sort of us as the nucleus of Zeekr as a brand. Since we at design, we always need to be in the forefront. Like when we design or sketch on things, or just sort of try to pair a technology with, a user need or use case, we always need to be like 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 years ahead of time. So like comparing that to like how it is in marketing and sort of branding, which everything needs to happen now, we are constantly
building future demand.
We're constantly in the future, which is extremely exciting when you go to work. It's also extremely hard because we're trying to predict the future in a way, or we're sort of throwing in a ball into the future, and we don't really hope that it will stick because of course that would be a loss of opportunity, but we're trying to sort of pave the way for that ball to actually stick. And I think that is sort of the excitement of working with design.
How right have you been so far?
I would say fairly right, to be honest. We did I don't know if you've seen it, the first car we launched here in Europe is called 001. That one is it's a shooting brake. It's not a sedan, it's not a estate, it's not a wagon. It has sort of a shooting brake appearance, so it looks sporty, but at the same time have this kind of practicality of almost like an SUV in that sense. And if you like when you see it on its own, it looks like a really planted, like muscular thing. And then when you park it next to something that actually is really low and sort of are muscular, then you see that it's actually quite high. Yeah. the car. It's a really big car in that sense.
Big car.
And one of the things we did was that we added these kind of big wheels to it, and also we pivoted the whole stance of the vehicle, so it leans forward a little bit, which is like
an animal.
Yeah, exactly, just like an animal, and that gives this kind of confidence and strength in its design, which also is like one of the oldest tricks in car design. Like you pivot it, and then you get this kind of feeling of muscular and athleticism, all those kind of things.
So just talk about design for a bit. What's the latest and greatest in car design? What's the latest trends right now? I mean, without revealing your future concepts.
I think what is happening is that in order to talk about the future, we need to talk about the past. Previously, like if you look at, well, cars that I drive or probably you guys drive, the kind of luxury level isn't really that high. If you needed to sort of get, having an Alcantara roofline or having the sort of a wow effect, like in, I don't know if you've seen, but back in the days, Bentley did this Toblerone thing in the center console where it's just like a wooden panel, then it turns and it becomes clocks, and then it turns again, and then it's sort of the HMI screen there. In order to get all these wow moments, you needed to pay like a really high premium. That for me is gone now. So like if you for instance, if you take Zeekr then as an example, like sure, we don't have Alcantara roof, but we have something similar that is even better. When we talk about this wow moment, even some other competitors, they have pop-up screens. Like it's you creating this kind of experience-driven car design that is happening more and more right now. Take the whole light experience in the interior. It's also now becoming really sort of exciting, to be honest. Or the whole sort of startup sequence when you're walking up towards a vehicle. Like all these sort of little tiny sort of things or features are becoming much more of a brand statement nowadays, and are becoming sort of, well, yeah.
And I even noticed from some car brands, they even charge extra for it. So you can have the standard kind of startup sequence, but then you can buy for €100 an extra luxury startup sequence with no extra hardware added, just the sequence.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Yeah. No, but I think generally speaking, the sort of future trends of EVs or within the car industry is much more emotionally driven from an experience point of view. Like you want to be entertained, but not in a way that you are entertaining. You see what I mean? Like you just want to be sort of part of something that you really resonate with, and that you can sort of but this feels like me. This is where I belong. That kind of feeling, which is really hard to create.
So the brand experience has become stronger in the product as well.
I would say so.
Before was more like advertising commercial thing. Definitely,
and also like the car industry has always been. This is just me speaking now, but has always been sort of feature driven in my mind, and like I come from the advertising world, I have more or less the same background as you guys. But when I started working within the auto industry 8 years ago, I couldn't really understand that there was all these different features that we were sort of trying to package into a product like a car or a vehicle. And then why would people even use all these features? The only thing I care about is I just want to get my, window shield down in order to get into the parking garage. Like I don't need all the other gadgets and stuff around that. And I think that is sort of what is happening now is that within the auto industry, people are starting to work more cross-functional. or across the companies, because previously you had all these different functions that basically were led by a specific team, and they really wanted their function to be part of the system or to be part of the whole experience. But in reality, when you have like hundreds, 200 different features, it just becomes like an overload for the user. And I think that is what's happening right now. So like the experience of the vehicle itself, it's going to be much more crisp in the future.
How do you achieve that? I mean, do you need some kind of coordinating officers?
I think what you need is... first and foremost, you need someone who can look at the product from a holistic standpoint, from sort of a helicopter view almost. And then you also need to have sort of a clear direction or goal of what the customer that this product is serving is supposed to deliver.
Yeah.
And I think these kind of criterias, of course, they have been there, but maybe as strong as they need to be now. Because now the market is so crowded. Like, how can you stand out if you only have the same feature as your neighbor constantly? Like, I think that is the main challenge that the whole auto industry has right now.
You said in order to predict the future, you need to think about the past.
Yeah.
Isn't that really hard right now?
It is.
What's your comment on the world today and how it affects you and at Zeekr and also your customers?
I think as it is now, we have sort of... The whole EV industry has been there for like 10, 12, 13 years now, or something like that. I think that people who drive EVs today are still early adopters, in a way, at least in Europe. If you look at China, there is a completely different story. There you see, first and foremost, the whole infrastructure works. Everything works, which means that it's not a hassle. There's no sort of... it's not hard to take the leap of actually getting an EV. It's more than normal, to actually drive an EV. And I think what we then need to do here in Europe is that we need to overcome certain levels or certain criteria when it comes to this, and we need help. Like, companies can't achieve this. This is on a much more sort of social level, and I think the whole sort of society needs to either adopt or decide how they want to play things out. So in my mind, it's actually quite an exciting future, I would say, even if you have sort of course you see challenges everywhere, but the challenges are there to be broken in a way. Not challenges, but yeah, you get my point.
Yeah. Before we met here in the lunch, we were talking about, what's happening in the world and how it affects car industry. First, we had like Tesla, who really kind of broke the boundaries and created a completely new way of approaching the car developments. And then came China, which it still is really, really strong, developing great cars, both in regards to quality, luxury feeling, but also software and user experience. Europe has been very, very strong in the car industry for the last 50 years. How are they going to cope with it? What do you think?
I think that, as you said, like China is now coming with rapid speed, and the competition is fierce.
600 major car brands from China or something? Yeah,
something like that. No, but it's crazy. I think Europe in particular, more or less invented this whole industry, or the West did that. And we have been living in this for the past 100 years now. So we know exactly how everything's working. We have sort of the bureaucracy set up to do this, and everything goes exactly as it should. And then you have this newcomer coming in. First it was Tesla, and I think what they did really wrong was they paved the way for sort of how we see how an EV actually can work in the daily life with supercharging networks. Like they started out there. They started with the pain points and they solved that. And then of course they how they sort of built their own vehicles was completely different compared to how we do it in the West or here in Europe. Then China came, and I think the strength with China is the sheer speed of it. Like what we have done at Zeekr, I see my brand or our brand as a global brand. Sure, we are Chinese, but we're also like the headquarter of design is here in Gothenburg, Sweden. So I see us more as a global brand. And I think what we have done so successfully is that we have looked at all the other players and we've tried to learn as much as possible from all of them. And by doing so, we can basically cut the development time in half. And we've done that 2, 3, 4 times now. So the development time from our side is extremely fast. And what that gives us in sort of return is that we can learn and understand our customers much faster. Because if we can get the product out quicker, then of course you have a respond quicker. And I think that is sort of the shift that the European auto industry needs to do.
So agile processes.
Yeah, I wouldn't even sort of frame it within agile or anything like that.
But more fast-paced processes.
Yeah, it needs to be sort of. I would almost argue that we don't have a process. You know, we do it and we try it and we learn from it. So we sort of we fail fast is in a way our process, I would say. And in order to the sort of the good thing about failing fast is that we can learn much quicker, so that when we really are focusing or trying to do something new, it's much easier to get something to stick, as I said before.
But how do you manage your brand then if you're failing? I understand you don't mean fail as in an accident and stuff, but your reputation and your brand and your trust within that space being so fast paced.
Yeah. So this is the hard part.
Yeah.
and first came with the easy part.
It's like swearing in church when speaking to brand people and myself included. No, but what we do, or what I have learned after working with my Chinese colleagues over time is that you need to, as a brand, you can't be afraid of adopting to your target customer. You can of course be true to yourself in like having the same tagline, motto, vision, mission, whatever, but in communication, in how like the tonality of the brand, all of that can change. Just in the same way as you as a human or we as people, we can change depending on how we feel, our moods. If it's a rainy day or a sunny day, like I think all of this. From a branding standpoint, I think we are, it can almost be like dogmatic, like it becomes so square and boxy in a way. And I think what I have learned during this period is that maybe we need to sort of stretch out the box a little bit to sort of try something different. Then, of course, you should not create a new brand and do.
You need to keep the direction.
Yeah, exactly. You still need to be true to yourself. But you should be able to evolve. And
not become too reactive either. You need to, like that sort of
but
balance is hard to maintain.
I see it more as a brand evolving over time. Then how fast it is, it's dependent. But for me, it's more about being a brand that can evolve into something greater, something good, rather than being reactive. Because I think when you're being reactive, then you're more a sort of... you're more nervous in my mind. but at the same time, like I think it's better to have this opportunity to actually, well, take fashion for instance. In fashion, it's okay to reinvent ourselves every 6 months. It's okay. Yeah. But in some other fields, it's not. Why is that?
Fashion is a great example because some fashion brands are definitely reinventing themselves, kicking out their creative directors and getting new ones.
Exactly.
But there is a fine line, a balance between keeping the heritage and reinventing. Because it's not like they're completely revamping and throwing everything in the bin.
Yeah.
But I think it's part of the game is to try to reinvent as much as possible, but still keep your kind of roots.
Yeah.
Which is interesting and delicate.
How depends on if it's fast fashion or if it's like the premium brands as well.
I was in the premium.
Yeah.
Isn't it?
No, I agree. But still, like the Y3, for instance, Adidas, like there it's okay to do something completely out of the box.
But they're doing things out of the Adidas box.
Yeah.
But still it's...
But they're keeping, like, they're still true to themselves, in my mind.
And they're true to the Yamamoto's, the designer's own beliefs, in a way.
Yeah.
But being a sports brand, I agree with you. So in a way, Y3 is more like a collaboration than between the Adidas sport heritage and the kind of Yamamoto's fashion.
How design driven is the Zeekr brand? How much is
generally speaking, we are it's like engineering and design are being sort of paired together. I would say, like, so we are a brand. We're this month we're turning 4 years old, so we're not. You talked about heritage before, like, but we don't really have a heritage. Like that for me is the excitement.
You have momentum.
Well, exactly, we have momentum, and we're here to stay. That is sort of our goal. No, but how design driven we are. I think since we only have been around for 4 years now, and we have 9 cars on the market globally, in total. We have sort of created an extremely high pace right now in terms of how we sort of want to enter the whole automotive world, and are trying now to sort of set the mark within the whole industry. And since we don't really have a heritage, we're here to define that. And that is also sort of a huge opportunity for us to actually try different things and sort of push that forward. I think what we are doing really well at the moment is that we're sort of elevating the whole luxury experience of EVs right now with Zeekr. We have, like, the products are fantastic in my mind. Of course, I'm biased, but they are really spectacular in that sense. And also that we are doing this sort of we're trying to sort of create this really strong sense of that the product is experience driven right now, which is so nice. You know, how you work with sense, how you work with tactile feelings, and just like one thing, we're bringing back physical buttons and switches right now because we tried something different before. And now we have received feedback, and now we're going back. I think, like, all these things for me is so strong as a brand that you actually can do that and adopt to that.
That's quite interesting, because that was one of my observations at CES this year, that the car interior designers became more and more kind of the center console driven. Everything is just there and no buttons for anything. And now things are coming back because we tried and it wasn't as great as we thought, so it has to get more tactile. Yeah, that's also one big design trend in here.
Good switch to CES as well.
Yeah. You want to talk about CES, Karin?
Yeah, so we met at CES, right?
We met at CES.
Yeah. We shared the taco.
Not the same taco, no?
No.
It was a great CES this year.
Yeah.
And you were there, and you also were showing your car.
We had our own stand there this time for the first time, and we showed 3 products. The Zeekr 001 FR, which is our hyper sort of crazy car. It has 1,300 horsepower and it's bonkers fast. So that's like our hyper sports vehicle. And then we had on the other end of the spectrum, we had our luxury flagship vehicle, which is the 009 Grand, or Guanghui as it's named in China, which is a big MPV it's a 4-seater MPV that has this massive big screen in front of you, so you don't actually see the driver. You just only
have a driver.
You need to have a driver in order to drive that one, basically. And that product was there, and then we had sort of the star of the show, which was the Zeekr Mix, which is our sort of creative way of designing the future of mobility. It's also an MPV, but it's designed more for being stationary than actually being on the go, which is kind of cool. So what we did with that was that we removed the B pillar, because cars, they have A pillar, B pillar, C pillar, D pillars, and then you basically have the door hinges that are closing to these different pillars that you have in the vehicle. But what we did was that we removed the B pillar, and that gives us the opportunity to actually have barn doors, or to open up the sort of complete side of the car, which changes the whole layout of the interior. So what we did was that we created a asymmetrical dashboard, and that gave us the opportunity to turn around the front seats so you can face each other while stationary then. And then you can have a fold-up table, you can drink tea there, you can play cards or do whatever you want. But it's a completely different sort of way of automotive, if you want to see it like that.
Very cool. We tried it.
Yeah.
We were in the car, and it was definitely an experience.
Yeah, no, and from a design standpoint, we are extremely pleased with the outcome, because when we were at CES and just sort of showed the whole vehicle for people, people were just amazed about how the seats were turning, and it looks like a show car, but it's actually already on sale in China. So that's nice.
It's quite interesting to see, because now with the electrification and the kind of experience, I mean, I think the trend has been going from the driving experience more to the kind of passenger experience, even more so to the kind of social experience in regards of the car. And we could see evidence everywhere. Both the home appliance manufacturers going into the car industry, for instance LG and but also the Afila, Sony, but also big car manufacturers like Kia and other ones as well, doing kind of the same thing with creating experiences around the life around the car. So it's really getting strong, and former brands has been very more kind of sporty oriented, drivers experience oriented. They are struggling now to trying to find new ways ahead. I mean, there's not so much talk about self-driving cars anymore, so you still need to have kind of a driver. That's still for quite some years more, but it's quite an interesting development.
Yeah, no, for sure. I think the cool thing that is happening right now is that you mentioned autonomous drive cars. We are sort of we're waiting for the software, basically. But that also gives us momentum in other areas, in other fields. And I think, as you mentioned, the whole sort of experience-driven design is happening in all areas. Like LG is doing it, Samsung is doing it. Suddenly the flip phones are back. Like all these kind of experiences are happening everywhere at the same time. And I think the nice thing that is happening in the auto industry is that we are like, back in the days, you always said that auto industry was like 10 years behind constantly. But now it's like we're getting on par. Or we're stretching it at least. Well, I would say we're not there yet, but we're getting there, and that's really interesting when it comes to like do partnerships with LG or Samsung and stuff like that, and see how can we learn or develop together with them. They have this kind of foldable screen and the curtain, like all these things. What if you put that one in a vehicle? How will that change? Like there are so many different aspects of it.
Are we going to see more collaborations?
I think so. I hope so.
Brand collaborations?
I think we need to do that.
Yeah.
Like right now we're in this kind of area where everybody's sort of fighting against each other and trying to survive.
Yeah.
And I think in order to do that is to join forces. So yeah, I hope so.
Last year at CES, which was the first big AI year, there were some global brands who already came up with products in amazingly short amount of time, heavily AI-driven products, for instance, L'Oreal and Siemens. And they all claimed that it couldn't have been possible without collaborating with the big tech companies or startup companies in open collaborations, not just kind of supplier relationships, but more like partnerships. So, but this hasn't really came to the car industry yet because it's still kind of more of a supply relationship thing. But I mean, will we see Zeekr and Google do something together? For instance, maybe not Google, but will we see this kind
take Google as an example. We are doing we have the Waymo product that we did, which is on. It's our sort of mobility self-driving taxi.
That's a strong collaboration.
Which we did together with them. That is still sort of in San Francisco now, driving up and down the streets there. And so far what I've heard is that it goes really well so far. So I think we're for certainly, like we're doing that. But I think this kind of open collaborations is hard because it's all about sort of IP rights and stuff like that right now. I completely agree. Like AI is changing a lot and is open up a lot of new doors when it comes to development. But I think we're not really there to sort of have an open collaboration with XYZ in order to achieve this. I would love to see that. Really, it would be so nice. But I don't think we're there yet.
You don't think so? I mean, screens...
No, but like we're doing it, but more, as you said, from a supplier standpoint. Or like we sign a contract and then we do the work together. We work together as buddies. We're friends. But not like, okay, hey, we have this issue, you have this issue, let's do something great together. Maybe that happens, I don't know, but I haven't seen it yet so far.
All right, so going back to CES, what was your strongest impressions this year?
This was the first time I was there, and I was kind of shocked about how much it was. Like I was overwhelmed the first sort of 2 days. For me, it was really hard to sort of gather my thoughts about what, like, do I like this? Do I like being here? From that standpoint, because it was so much to digest in my mind, and you could also clearly see that like this is a tech fair. From its roots and how sort of the car industry is getting there, and other players are also getting in there, which is kind of interesting because it's one of the biggest fairs in the world. But generally speaking, my feeling of CS was overwhelming. Like it was a lot.
But did you learn anything, like new technology, or did you get any concrete inspiration from some exciting stuff that you...
I think LG did a really good sort of, how should I say, they did a really good, they put up a really good show in how they can touch humans in their everyday life, which I absolutely love. I think that is so strong as a brand when you're becoming more of a sort of almost like an ecosystem, but without thinking. Like it felt like LG sort of, they took that kind of approach. We want to be everywhere, but we don't want to scream out that we're everywhere. We're just there, which I think was so nice. So I would say they had the strongest kind of impact on me.
You mentioned that car industry is now a tech industry, meaning that car industry should be at CS. But also on other kind of, not just on industries, but also disciplines. Like we talked about marketing and brand, which has been so big on CS and basically moved over from South by Southwest to CS because tech is so important part of marketing now.
Yeah. And for me, that's, I think, so much changed during COVID that we don't even see, like and that brand and tech collaborationship was really elevated during that time when you weren't online, didn't exist really. So for me, that's how I see it, and also what we discussed about, all the countries being more with the tariffs and the importance of Europe having their own production of things. Like, and you said something before, like if you want to make money right now, what should you do?
No, if you want to make money right now, I think you should start a social network. No, but coming back to branding and marketing, what I think is kind of cool right now is that for me it feels like this kind of big billboard era, or the big campaign sort of Super Bowl ad. In my mind, that is gone right now, and I think like just looking at our brand Zeekr, like when I travel to China, which I do a lot, when you come to the airport, we have never had any like big billboards there or anything like that. Of course, we are in sort of print ads, but that is not really the focus. Like we are on WeChat, we are in my little red book, we are in TikTok, like on all social media, trying to sort of reach all our customers, but in different ways. And I think that is the kind of new way of marketing, new way of branding. Like you can't stick to a goal and only sort of focusing on that for 6 months and then you create a new one, which is kind of sort of exhausting because then you need to do a lot rather than just focus on one thing and aim all the efforts towards that ad campaign or whatever it is. Now it's everything, like you need to be visible everywhere.
Do you though?
I would say we do that, yes.
But do you have to? Like I understand that's the expectation, but do you really need to be everywhere?
Well, it depends on how successful you want to be, I would say. I would say yes, you need to be everywhere, and you need to listen everywhere as well. Like you need to get all the feedback in order to learn how to be in a certain way in a certain area or network or whatever it is, So I think yes. That is my answer, and I think that is also one of the big shifts that has happened over the past, let's say, 5 to 10 years. and that it has sort of gradually moved into that. Which, so yeah, it's exciting and hard at the same time.
And one interesting topic for me, one of my biggest eye openers this year at CES, but also in the world now, is the Gen Z. And I did not know how big they became, and they're the biggest generation now in the world. What is it? More than it's roughly 1/3 of the world's population, mostly in South America, Africa, Southeast Asia, because rapidly growing countries, but still in OECD countries, more than 1/4 of the workforce are Gen Z now. I didn't know that, and it's quite interesting because when I learned this, I started to study and learn and understand, and did some deep interviews with Gen Z people from my surrounding here. It's quite interesting how they approach brands, technology, sustainability, and values. Are you working with Gen Z? Is that one of your focus groups?
That is one of the primarily sort of target groups that we have. I think also, again, like back to branding, like they are not as brand loyal as the previous generations has been in that sense, which means that we like we need to sort of be really, how should I say it? We constantly need to reinvent ourselves in order to keep them. Because if we don't, someone else going to come and take over.
And
and I think that is the kind of, that's what I meant before with sort of trying to sort of, get the ball to stick. Then we need to elevate it constantly. Like we need to not reinvent ourselves, but we need to sort of, evolve fast in that sense.
It's kind of a fast-paced generation.
Extremely.
And they love technology.
Yes, but they're also sort of gradually moving into this sort of experience-driven, experience, or brand experience, I would say.
Maybe they're experience natives. They're so used
everyone talk about technology natives.
Oh yeah.
But they're maybe experienced natives.
They're so used to and sort of fed with great experiences that they are always want more.
If you take the fashion industry again, like back in the days, you could go into a fairly known fashion brand and you bought your handbag for a lot of money, and then you walked around with that, and it was sort of nice, and you enjoyed that. Now, when you get into that fashion store, you want a glass of champagne, you want to go into your separate room, you want the room to have the same color as the handbag that you're buying. All these things is an experience. That is what you buy. And then, by the way, you got a handbag. That's cool. That for me is the whole thing that is happening. And if we can't sort of elevate on that, then we have nothing to do here.
Exactly.
That's what Delta said during their keynote at CES. Experiences is the currency of business today. I think it's kind of great summed up, and the way that they also went into their keynote, this huge event that they had, as sort of an airplane company, and then came out as a digital or tech company, really. How would you define yourselves? Like, how much tech and how much?
I would say, since you now said that Delta is a tech brand, and because they define themselves as that they create experiences for their customers, I would say we are definitely a tech brand. We are actually, in our naming, it says Zeekr technology.
Wow!
In our actual name, so we are a tech brand from day one. That was the whole idea of Zeekr, and of course, then we need to elevate on experiences. That is what we want to do, So, but then the struggle is, okay, what kind of experience do we want to create? So what's
the best one that you created?
We have done 4 cars now that has this lamp in the front of the vehicle, which is called Stargate. It's basically a LED, not a screen, but it's a LED lamp. You can program it, or you can write or create your own signatures. You can write your name in it. You can write "I love you," and then people from the outside can see it. Or you can create, a new signature, which basically change the perception of that vehicle. For me, that is so strong. Like that for me is an experience in itself, because you as a user can then create together with this car brand, which back in the days were supposed to, here you have this box, and I hope you enjoy your box. Here's the key to the box, and you can enjoy your box for the rest of your life, But now we're changing that. I think that is so strong. Then, of course, like we have, how interior lighting is sort of creating or setting a mood of you. We did a concept where we worked with sort of how you can relax in the vehicle, because of course, like driving around in, take Shanghai, it's a fairly crowded city. Maybe you need to relax. So how can you relax? And then we used the whole screen setup to create sort of really relaxation content. Same with the whole sound system, and then of course with the lights in the interior to sort of really sort of lower the threshold, lower the pulse, basically lower everything for you, which was really successful. So I think all of these kind of ideas or solutions where you combine, where you work cross-functional. You're not focusing on the sound experience. You're focusing on the sound and the light experience. That is when you create an experience, or when you combine even more stuff, like you have sound, light, and then the screen population. Because then it's like you're sitting in a rolling cinema theater in a way. That is what you do in a car that happens to have massage seats.
Yeah. I can agree, and it's quite interesting. I think we talked about it before in this podcast about how there's a challenge for big companies to work on the holistic customer experience, brand experience, product experience, because there are silos, and there are always silos. But how can you kind of work through these silos in a good way? Because all the different silos, departments have different KPIs of natural reasons, because if you're sales department, of course, you got to sell your products. If you're development, you are having other KPIs. And some companies have their kind of CXOs, officers, which has no real, power, because they can't affect anything. They can just try to talk to the colleagues in the leadership team that, please, Mr. Sales Officer, can you implement this? And maybe they will, maybe they won't, because of their KPIs. How do you solve this problem?
So what we do is that we have clinics where we invite marketing, engineering, design, customer service, all these different kind of entities within
kind of heads of people?
Both. Yeah. It depends, like what kind of clinic it is. But normally it's on a director's level. And there we invite customers then, and we sort of observe them, and then of course have interviews, looking at sort of what things can we improve, what things do they really like, what should we keep as a brand statement, and then also sort of, since we already have them there, you can also bring in some other key competitors. In terms of vehicles, to sort of see, okay, what did you think about this one compared to this, and so on. So I think what we're doing really well is that we actually are learning from our customers, and that was also one of the key things that we had in the beginning when we created the company, that we want to co-create with our users, was the statement that we had, which we're trying to do as much as we can. But of course, like, it's hard. We're sitting here in Europe, or in Sweden, Gothenburg, and our main market is in China. But we are growing, like we are visible now in Europe or in Sweden and Norway and Holland, and we are expanding. But and we're still doing these clinics in order to move forward. So I would say, yeah, that is how we do it, at least.
I think my kind of opinion is that there are
kind of.
The CXO officer should be the CEO of the company. If you're having a CEO who is really interested in great customer experience, you will probably be able to push it all the way down the organization. And that's something I've seen the recent 2-3 years. CEOs at global companies has been talking more and more about customer experience. Whether before just outsource it to someone down in the organization, maybe some in the brand organization or maybe product organization. But now they're talking about it. And I think the pandemic, again, the COVID, changed a lot. Not just technology, but also this, because all of a sudden you need to protect the company. You need to try to get revenue without ambitious and bold innovation and new ideas. You need to get revenue elsewhere. And customer experience is a great way to take existing products and add layers, mostly digital, in order to getting greater experiences. So it has been a big shift. And companies with CEO and leadership power who really puts emphasis on customer experience and brand experience, they are the ones who will win the game.
Completely agree. We always have in our CEO, he always takes the sort of customer point of view when we have reviews with him, and he is always trying to sort of view it from the customer standpoint or point of view, which of course sometimes is really challenging, but it's also really good because back in the if you rewind the tape a little bit, they are the ones who are judging us. They are the ones who are buying us, who fall in love with us. Like all of these things, they are everything. So if we don't listen to them, we can't exist. So I completely agree.
And the CEOs needs to be nerds. Because they need to be nerd enough to understand the Gen Z. If the CEOs are not nerdy enough to understand the Gen Z, they can't deliver to Gen Z. And since Gen Z is one of the biggest kind of customer groups in the world, so companies without nerds and without having a great customer experience perspective on the CEO level will vanish.
We shall see.
Okay, that was tough, maybe a bit hard. We'll see it also in business to business.
Yeah, no, but I think generally, right now, as you said, like it's the customer era we're in right now. Like everything comes down to what they think, how they judge you, how they sort of treat you in social media, whatever. Like they are the ones standing there and dictates. The only thing we as brands can do is trying to sort of give them a vision or pave a future that they might like or enjoy, or solve a problem for them that actually helps them in their everyday life. I think that is our role as working men and women to solve. How
do you understand the Chinese customer?
Good question.
Being in Gothenburg.
Yeah. It's actually really exciting because it's a completely different culture. It's one culture that is more sort of how should I say, based on what you say and what you do, rather than on how you act, if that makes sense. And the customer in China, like when we are trying to, they're extremely literal as a culture. Can you say that? Yeah. Like if they tell you something, they actually mean it. Like which is sometimes so nice and sometimes really hard to understand. Like, was that actually true, or was so when we sort of are working since we are working like R&D and everything is in China, the marketing and sales team is in China. Of course, there are things that, you know, due to language barriers and stuff like that, is hard to understand. But on a general basis, like they are here right now to sort of define the future of automotive. That's my kind of feeling, and they're doing that by viewing how we did it before and back then. But they're doing it now in a faster and a better way. So what we do is that we're working alongside as a really strong big team, and we're trying to build on each other. Like sometimes they don't understand us. We're not perfect. They're not perfect, but together we can be perfect, hopefully, or like we can do something really exciting at least. And I think that is how we sort of together can understand the Chinese customer. To build on their knowledge and to them build on our knowledge. And lastly, and the most important point, is that you need to be humble. Because the more humble you are or friendly, the more info and information or knowledge you will get from your counterpart. So I'm always trying, and basically everybody here in Gothenburg are trying to be as humble as it can get, because then we can build a really strong super team together, even if we are 6 or 7 hours away from each other in time zones.
I think at the same time, you don't need to have been a patient in order to be a good doctor. I mean, if you're a specialist, expert in your area, creating car brands and strong experiences, digital experiences, and connecting this. And if you're humble enough to listen, just like a good doctor will listen to the patient. Yeah,
but like when you are humble, you're by default open-minded. Exactly. In my mind. So if you're open-minded, then you can accept how they view things you have done differently, or the other way around. You know, and for me that is. As a creative, it's sometimes so hard to sort of, let's say that you have done something and you're so proud of it. You're like being a 4-year-old again, and you've done this painting and you're just so proud, you know, like I used red, blue, green and yellow as colors and it was just perfect. And then you show it and they say, oh, but you didn't use the purple one. And then you freak out because like, no, but I didn't want to use the purple one, you know. I only want to have these 4 colors. And I think that is the kind of struggle you have as a creative person, to sort of be calm in that situation and to try to understand it from a different mindset, from a different, humble, open-minded way. And when you do that, you actually realize that, oh, hey, if I did this, if I added the purple color, it will be 5 times greater. You know, and I think,
or a compromise.
It can be a compromise, but maybe that compromise works better in that area or for that target customer that you maybe not know. Yeah. You know, so it's of course it's a compromise from your little box where you came from, but translating that into the sort of greater picture, then it's an improvement, as I see it. Makes sense?
Makes sense.
It makes sense. I was just thinking about what you just said, that, and it's always like that, you want to add stuff, right? And so much design right now is becoming very clean and sort of the same. We talked about the sea of sameness before, which is something that you see in general, and I definitely experienced it at CES. That so much is sort of looking the same right now, and using the same buzzwords, the same kind of design principles. It's hard to tell you guys apart, the different brands.
Yeah.
Is that something that you are working on, or is that something that is based on that customer-centric approach, that clean is premium or easier to...
I would say that is a Western sort of definition of it.
Yeah.
I would say it's not like that on a global level. Like we are, clean surfaces, as you mentioned. That was something that was really sort of cool when Tesla did their Model 3. Everybody was sort of wowed by that, me included. I thought it was great from that standpoint. Now, what people actually want, or what we learned, is that they want things to touch. They want things to feel. They want to feel if this is wood, then it should feel like wood. It shouldn't be plastic. If it's metal, it should be cold, because metal is cold. All these tactile feelings, or tactile sort of small sensations, that is where luxury sort of lays right now. Or that is the kind of way of luxury. In the same way as I talked earlier about this, you want to buy this handbag, then you want to have the full experience. Here's the same thing. Like if you have a switch that looks like it's in metal, then it should really feel like it's metal. It should weigh like it's metal, or it should click like it's metal. All these things are, in my mind, sort of coming, I wouldn't say coming back, but they are being designed in a way in order to cater for that. So they're sort of, we are right now taking that into account when we're doing, let's say, a center console, or when we're doing physical buttons for the steering wheel. Like that, it needs to feel right. It cannot just be a new technology like it was before. Then you added a technology and hope that it would work. Turns out that the customer didn't like that. They want to have the true feeling. Like again, they want the right experience. So I think from a luxury standpoint, we are right now entering into a new era where the design is more sort of catered to oversee all these small things that sums up the greater experience. I think that is the kind of the shift that is happening right now.
Yeah, I agree.
Like, yeah,
for sure.
How will, I mean, okay, so you're basically eating the luxury car brands market in a way. How will the real classical luxury car brands answer to this?
I would, I guess they're afraid.
Because they've been experts in the tactile feelings. I mean, driving an expensive car, a sports car, or a luxury car.
No, but like what has happened now is that what you back then needed to pay a premium for, you can now get for not paying a premium. That is what is happening.
So what do you need to get?
The premium, exactly. That is the question.
For the premium money.
Hence the experience. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
So like everybody needs to elevate their own game. Now in my mind, everybody needs to sort of elevate themselves in order to be on par. And then the question is, okay, so how do we set ourselves apart?
How do we?
That is the question. So do you do that by design, shape, simple things, or do you do it by experiences, customer services, loyalty? You know, all these things are, in my mind, the future brand differentiation.
But what luxury car brands, what they have, which mass market car brands doesn't, is the price. They can always raise a price because the target group of luxury car brands.
Yeah, but why would you buy that?
If they can double the price, they have basically enormous amount of money to develop.
Yeah, but now we talked about the customer before, right?
Yeah.
So why would the customer pay a double for?
If they want to.
Because they want to show that they have.
They can, I want.
Why? Doesn't make any sense.
Social status.
But it's never been like made any sense. It's emotional.
Yeah,
and in that target group, I guess that's something that is.
So how I see it is that you have three sort of customers in the luxury kind of realm. you have the aspirational customer, which basically want to get something really or truly expensive, like take a Rolex watch. That is an expensive watch. It's somewhat unnecessarily, but it's there. Then you have the sort of unreachable. Sorry, now I jumped in. It went too fast here. Let's rewind. So you have 3 different kind of target groups. You have the accessible, you have the aspirational, and then you have the inaccessible. Those are the 3 kind of target customer in my mind in the luxury realm. The accessible is us, like the everyday human who just want to sort of elevate their standard. They want something good, and they don't want to pay a premium, but they can, you know, in a way. Then you have the aspirational customer who are buying a Rolex, or, you know, like they are willing to pay a premium for it. And what happens there is that you have this kind of bond or connection between the customer and the brand. Like you, as I said earlier, this whole thing about the handbag, you buy that experience. There you have the bond. That is what you're after. And then you have the inaccessible user, which basically are buying an artifact or buying something that they want to pass on to their children and to their children's children. Like they are buying more something that they want to possess rather than consume. Does it make sense?
Yeah.
And I think what is happening is that talking about luxury is that the accessible target group or the consumer, they are becoming so like they are now the mass market customer. The bread and butter has now become a luxury consumer because it's so much easier for them to actually get that. Do you see what I mean?
Yeah.
Arket, H&M, you know, like you get a premium, but you don't have to pay the premium, but you still get it and you get the experience. So I think that is sort of where that is why I'm sort of questioning, like, why do you want to buy a premium today? Because everything is becoming much more, well, digestible for everybody.
Or rather, why do you want to buy luxury? Because everyone can buy premium.
Yeah, but then it's unreachable. Because, like, for me, luxury is all about creating something that is unreachable. Like you shouldn't be able to afford it. Like, here's a castle. Yeah, can you buy it? No. Well, you probably can if you have the money, but can you? No, you can't, because it's too expensive. That for me is the sort of untouchable luxury, which of course it will always be there. You know, Rolls-Royce, Bentley, all these brands.
Jaguar.
Maybe. I don't know. I have no. Jaguar is really interesting, but
any comments on that one?
I think it's cool. I think it's so bold. I think they're in that sense. I think it's in being within the automotive industry. For me, it's really refreshing to see that someone is actually have the guts to do something different. I think that for me is cool.
Which of the Western kind of hemisphere car brands are the strongest one right now? In your impression? I
think right now BMW are doing a really good job. I think a lot of them are doing really well. It's just that we does not really know how the landscape look. That for me is the kind of feeling. It's not really like they are doing it bad or they are doing it good or stuff like that. It's more like the whole sort of area that we're operating in is so strange at the moment that you don't really know what's right or wrong. And I think from a creative standpoint or from sort of a form perspective, I think a lot of the European brands are actually doing it really well. take Polestar. I love Polestar. Like from a design style, it's fantastic, you know. And I think there are so many brands like that right now that just sort of needs to sort of land a little bit, and we need to know where the big ship is turning.
I think in the last 5 years, there's been lots of talk about the software, the digital experience in the car, which was basically formed by Tesla. And it has become so much of focus on the digital experiences, so people have forgotten the importance of design and importance of also comfort and traditional values for the cars, because you're still sitting in a car and you're still going to be there for hours, in sometimes many hours. So the comfort is definitely important. If you're commuting maybe 1 hour a day plus 1 hour a day, then you want a silent and comfortable experience, a fairly nice experience. And we're still driving cars, meaning that the driver's experience is still important. And after all, we are social beings, we're humans, we're social beings, meaning a good-looking car is also important. So I personally think that car brands that can manage these things together with the software experience, because it's also important but if you can manage all these experiences, you might win.
Yeah, and also sort of
and your car is amazing. It's great. It looks really it's
Thank
cool.
you.
It's beautiful. I always turn my head when I see it, in opposite to many other car brands, many other Chinese car brands. It looks great, and I'm one of the few lucky ones who got to test drive it before it was
launched. Yeah, that's true.
And I was blown away. It was like driving a Porsche or a sports BMW. It was great. It had this great
feeling. For half the price.
For half the price. And also the kind of interior was also great. It was kind of luxury. So you did a great job with the car brand. So
thank you.
Good job, Gustav.
Yeah, no, it's a team effort. It's a massive team effort. But I think what you highlight there is that it turns heads, plural. And I think the reason for that is that we have the sort of strong European car heritage when it comes to car design or vehicle design, sort of matched or paired together with the Chinese engineering, the rapid pace of that. I think that for me is one of the kind of strongest sort of setups that you have right now. So I'm quite confident about Zeekr in the future due to this.
That's great. So could we? I think maybe we should do the quick questions.
Okay.
A little round of quick questions.
Okay.
And then we'll wrap up.
Yeah.
So TikTok or Instagram for luxury car brands?
Ooh. Where? What market? Where are we?
We're in. Oh, that's a good question.
We're in Europe.
We're in Europe.
We're in Europe. Let's say Europe.
Okay, then I say TikTok.
TikTok.
Yeah.
The most used word in marketing meetings right now?
Experience.
Experience.
I think we said it like 150 times already in this podcast.
Yeah.
A marketing tactic that you are completely tired of?
Ooh, big ad campaigns.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. You come to an agency and say that? Yeah. That's bold.
A brand collaboration. A brand collaboration you'd love to do but would shock your board.
Ooh, with the Zeekr.
Yeah.
With us. Ooh.
Feels like it would be a fashion brand. It feels like you're...
Yeah, that or like nothing. Like something like industrial design. It would be cool to sort of do a complete... do a different take on the things that we already have launched or done. Or something in the art industry would be nice. I think art for me right now is in a way sort of like in society right now when basically all the shit is happening. And
but would that really shock the board? I mean, your boss is an artist himself.
Yes, but I think when you do art from a sort of when art comes out from a fairly traditional, boring sort of auto company, then you are shocking the world. Like, how did they dare to do that? I think that for me would be so nice to do something like that. But I don't really know what it would be or who it would be with. But that for me would be cool. Then it doesn't really necessarily need to happen around or need to be around cars, but it could be anything, you know. Could be an installation.
Yeah.
What's your honest opinion about car influencers?
Good question. My honest opinion is that I think they are needed because they are, in a way, the people's voice sometimes. Of course, if you are having a sort of bad connect or if the influencer doesn't like you, then of course it's going to be challenging. But I think it's good that they exist. I think it's good to have someone that has the kind of means of doing whatever they want from their standpoint, because they are their own brand. They are not part of a paper or newspaper or whatever. They can do whatever they want. And for me, that's kind of refreshing. Even if, like, you know, Top Gear are doing fantastic like productions and you know, the journalism is great, but it's also kind of refreshing to just view a guy on YouTube or on TikTok doing what he or she likes to do. So I'm positive.
Right, next question. If you could implement the most futuristic new technology from CES 2025 into a Zeekr car, what would that be? Radical.
AI. Yeah. That sort of works. I think, or AI that is connected to all the functions in the vehicle, not just sort of a voice assistant, like, but sort of someone that you can truly speak to. You know, what if you could have this podcast when I'm driving up to, I don't know, a house by the lake, you know? That would be so nice. Or, you know, like adding AI as a partner rather than as a feature or function.
If I would have gotten the same question, I would have said a humanoid robot in the car as my partner in the car, so I don't need to drive alone.
No, but for me, like, I love driving. That is what I sort of like about cars. I think it's so relaxing to just drive, even if it's super boring. You're in the highway or freeway doing 110 kilometers an hour and for hours. I think it's so relaxing. But what I'm missing is this, you know, having this kind of conversation, because sure, you can call a friend or your spouse or whatever it is, but having this without anyone else knowing, like, it would be so cool.
Yeah.
It would be awesome. And then maybe when you're going back, then you just listen to it. Listen to yourself, like, reflect. Was that smart? You know, it could be so cool. I think that is sort of, that is what I would incorporate.
That's cool.
Looking forward to next CES then.
All right. So to wrap it up, so what are you going to focus on now? What's happening at Zeekr and what can we look forward to?
So tomorrow we are launching our 007 GT, which is our next shooting break in China. And that is the main focus right now. And then, of course, we have the Shanghai Auto Show coming up directly after Easter. So I'm flying out on the 22nd to Shanghai for that, and so that is the main focus as it is right now. Auto shows and launches.
That's great.
Cool.
Mm.
And before we say goodbye, what have we learned today?
Oh, experience is a big word. Don't ask me. What have you learned? No, I don't know. But maybe that the future is bright, and it's exciting. You need to sort of follow follow trends. You need to listen to customers. You need to try to sort of figure out what the future might hold, but at the same time do it together. So it's like you're holding hands with the customer, in my mind. I think that is, I hope at least that is what I sort of...
No, I agree. And it's really nice to hear someone saying that the future is bright in this day and age.
I think so. It has to be bright.
It's right. And for me, it's also interesting to hear that everyone is sort of struggling with the same thing and trying to ensure, sort of have the customer-centric approach as an sort of insurance that you are on the right way. You don't go away on yourself and try to get customers. You sort of taking your customer and clients in the hand and sort of understanding what they are thinking in order to make sure that you're going the right way, because everyone is struggling to understand where the world is going. So it's you hear it from many places right now, but I think you articulated it very well, and it's really interesting to hear.
We shall see.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And what I learned today is actually the speed of everything. The speed of development, innovation, speed of creating your products, releasing products. There's a lot of talks about, prices, for instance, for different cars, but there are no secret sources. There's no ways to have cheaper cars. But if you can have a great speed in your company, no matter if it's an automotive company or another type of company, the greater speed you can have in doing your things, the greater competitive advantage you will have. So that's very clear to me. So thank you, Gustav. Great to have you here.
Thank you so much for having me. It's been great.